movie business now. Can drive-through cinemas work in Nigeria? Right here on the Global Business Report, we had a panel of industry insiders in the cinema business who we asked if that would be something they would look at with regards to how the coronavirus has impacted the movie business. And one of them said, no, it would not work. However, we do have another executive here from another cinema that just made an announcement that they will be going into a drive-through cinema. So joining me now to discuss this is Mr. Ope Ajayi, who is the executive director at Genesis Cinemas, to talk about this. Good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to the Global Business Report. So your decision to introduce a drive-through cinema, was that caused by the impact of COVID-19, or was that something you had looked into previously?
Discussed over time. We never got around to doing it. Clearly, COVID was a trigger, and we felt this was a good time to try a new experience. And so, yeah, you can't say that it was COVID that led to us trying the drive-through experience.
Okay, so as I just alluded to in my intro, we did have a panel here. In fact, I think you know the panelists. One of them was Moses Babatokwe of Film One. He said the business model for drive-throughs didn't really work for him. How is it working for you? How have you seen it working out to where you've made this decision?
Well, there are a few things that we put into consideration. We have about 3 or 4 objectives. First objective was to stay in touch with our customers, which for us was very important. Second thing, obviously, was we needed to be safe. And then we wanted to also have, a new experience. And, the last thing was we don't lose money, which is really important to us. So our overriding objective was not really economic gains, as the case may be. We wanted to pretty much stay in touch with our customers and ensure that, we have the opportunity to create connection. We're firm believers that human beings are not made for isolation. These are very interesting times. So we will do whatever we can to ensure that people continue to have a good experience in a safe and in a safe environment.
Okay, so let's talk construction costs now. Will you be building a new location for this drive-through cinema, or somehow converting an already existing one?
So we're working with a number of partners, and we're working with a number of mall owners as well in selected locations across the country. Ultimately, we all have the same objective. We need to give people a reason to come out again. These are unprecedented times, and essentially the journey to recovery has to start as soon as possible, in the safest way possible. So the cost of it, we found, ways to ensure that we keep our cost as minimal as possible. But like I said, the overriding objective is not really the economics of it or the commercial viability, more of the fact that we needed to stay in touch with our customers. And, as much as possible, keep the film business going, because, as you know, this is one of the worst hit sectors of the economy.
Okay, and so I've been educated on how this works. Now, with regards to the screens and how to protect them, what about weather interruptions and stuff like that? How is that going to be factored in with what you're doing? All
the equipment we're using are essentially for outdoor use. So there's no indoor use. In fact, you can't use them indoors. So this has already been factored in. Everything we're using is for outdoor. So there's no real issue on this.
Okay. Now, is this supposed to replace the traditional way people have been watching films, or is this a model that's supposed to run side by side with the way things are now?
Our approach is actually definitely it can't replace. It's not going to replace. Our approach right now is to keep things going. We think that it's a good complement, to the cinema business. It's not in any way a form of replacement. But at best, it will be a complement to what we're doing.
Okay. And how do you view competition from streaming services? Because people with COVID-19, with cinemas closed now, and people even, possibly being a little skittish about going to cinemas whenever they reopen, the competition with the draw from streaming services that keep people at home, how do you see that affecting your line of business?
Well, cinemas have been through different phases, and I think that over time, over the decades, cinema has always responded appropriately to whatever challenges that we faced. Over the last 10 years, for example, you've seen You've seen over the last few years, you've seen different changes in the cinema business. You've seen large format screens. You've seen improvements in sound and technology. So the cinema experience is going to be beyond just seeing a movie. It's going to be about the entire experience, including the film food. So this becomes not this. So the online streaming services are here to stay. But I think that, you know, as has always happened, the cinema continues to evolve. The way we gather may change slightly. Technology may change, but we will always gather to enjoy movies.
Okay. Now, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, announced that, you know, they're looking at possibly reopening the economy, but then they're going to be, their safety agencies will be going out to cinemas and bars and restaurants to make sure that they're okay to be reopened. Have you been given any indication as to whether or not when that reopening will take place from the Lagos State government?
No, we haven't. We're very happy to hear that the Lagos State is considering reopening, as with many state governments. We think it's a good step. We think it's a step in the right direction. On our own part, however, some of the things we've done as a business, as well as the Cinema Association, is that we've started to prepare for certain things. So we're using our softwares, for example, to control the number of people that can get into the theater. So if you have a theater that is a 200-seater, for example, only 50% of people will be able to get in, so as to ensure a certain level of distance with people. The second thing we've done is that we've also then agreed to have a 30-minute cleaning time as against the average 10 to 15 minutes time that most cinemas have. Again, this allows for proper cleaning and fumigation of screens after every show. So those are some of the steps that, you know, we're taking in anticipation of reopening, you know, in various states across the country.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. So you're saying it's gone from a 10 to 15-minute cleaning time to a 30-minute cleaning time to allow fumigation and so on. Yes. So there's a airline industry report from a consulting firm that said that some of the changes that will be made to airlines, you know, possibly removing some seats so that there will be social distancing within planes and so on, will actually affect revenues for that industry. So for yours, I'm looking at this 30-minute cleaning time between movies. Will that affect revenues in any way?
It will definitely affect revenue, because it means that the number of shows that you can have a day is limited. But that's the reality of the times, you know, and we would have to find ways to navigate this time. I mean, we're firm believers that COVID will not last forever. I mean, we don't know how long this will last, but there's going to be life after COVID. For now, it's really about survival. It's really about staying in the business. It's really about ensuring that the customers are able to still enjoy a good time at the cinemas and various entertainment centers. And that's the priority over the next 12 months.
Okay. Now, does that include in raising ticket prices? Is that something that you've looked at in any way, shape, or form with regards to the next 12 months and how to handle the impact of COVID-19?
So, I mean, that's a decision that we'll probably take, you know, on the go. It's unclear right now if it's a wise thing to do. Right now, we're trying to build consumer confidence back in the sector. It's very unlikely that we can increase the prices as things currently stand. But, I mean, you never know. Over time, we'll make those decisions on commercial, on numbers.
Okay. If I'm going to borrow a quote from President Trump, he says over in the U.S. there's this pent-up demand that's waiting to be released, which is the reason why a number of the states in the United States are being allowed to open now. He says there's pent-up demand for a number of things. He was talking about sports today. People want to see their sports. I don't know if you've done any surveys or if you've, you know, talked to customers or people, moviegoers. Do you see any pent-up demand for people in Lagos and rest of Nigeria that want to go back to the cinemas to watch films?
We've done a few surveys. 70% of people say that, depending again on the state and the location, say that they want to go back into the cinemas. Obviously, that percentage is lower in states like Lagos and Abuja, higher in some states in the southeast and the south-south. Again, I guess it's also a function of the impact of COVID on those locations. But we do think that there is pent-up demand. However, we're cautiously optimistic about the immediate future. I mean, we're very optimistic about the long term, but cautiously optimistic about the next 12 to 15 months.
Great. And okay, on that note, finally, what's your outlook for the industry, considering that there's a recession projected for Nigeria, incomes might be squeezed? How are you seeing things riding out for the rest of the year?
I think we've been through more difficult times in the past. There's nothing new, to be honest with you. The entertainment sector has always fared strongly against recession. Again, like I said, we're cautiously optimistic about the near future, but we're very bullish and optimistic about the long-term future of the film industry as a whole and the cinema subsector.
All right. Ope Ajayi, the Executive Director of Genesis Cinemas, thank you so much for joining us to talk about whether or not the drive-thrus can work, drive-through cinemas can work in Nigeria. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.